Welcome back to the Mystery Project, y'all. We got a crazy one tonight. Jason Corbett and Molly Martens, the tragic love story, says no one expected his wife would do this. And it's Christina Randall. We love Christina Randall. I saw she posted this video, so let's check it out. Y'all make sure you go subscribe to her. She's amazing. She's pinned down in the description. So go show her some love. Subscribe to her channel. If you're not already, she's got like 3 million subscribers. So you probably already are. But if not, go check it out. All right, y'all. Let's jump right into this one. By the way, YouTube, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new. TikTok, same thing. Hit that follow button if you're new here. And we're also live on X, Rumble, and Kick. Apparently, Kick is a thing. So we're live there as well. The Mystery Project on Kick. So let's do this, y'all. Let's see what's going on here.
Okay, so here recently, a new Netflix documentary has come out about the story about Jason, Jack, and Sarah Corbett. Now, it was a case that I hadn't actually heard of before, and I found it very interesting because it's one of those where there are a lot of split opinions. I mean, the amount of DMs that I got where people were like,
hell.
I have to know your opinion, Christina, because I don't know which way to go. Okay. And I definitely had some opinions watching this documentary, and so did my husband.
I would say it's a roller coaster. So at the very beginning, I'm like, guilty. And in the middle, I'm like, oh, maybe they didn't.
Oh,
And
hell.
at the very end, I'm like, I don't really know.
And let me tell you, I thought that I had my
snap.
mind made up after watching this documentary, but when the documentary was over and I began to research even more information, my mind changed again. And I definitely want to go through all of this stuff with you guys. So
That is crazy.
let's talk about it. So Jason Corbett was born on February 12th of 1976 in Limerick, Ireland. In 2003, Jason married a woman named Margaret Fitzpatrick, and she went by Mags. Now, not long after they got married, Jason and Mags welcomed a son named Jack. Then just 2 years later, they had a daughter together named Sarah. Jason's sister, Tracy, says that she remembers how happy Jason and Mags were. They felt like their family was complete now that they had their prince and their little princess. Sadly, though, in 2006, when Jack was just 2 years old and Sarah was only 12 weeks old, Mags, their mother, passed away suddenly from a severe asthma attack.
Oh, hell. That's got to be terrible.
This left Jason completely devastated, as you can imagine. He was only 30 years old. He's a young father who's got two little ones, a 12-week-old and a 2-year-old. And now he's just lost his wife from this tragic accident, and now he's a single father. So in April of 2008, Jason decided that it was time to get some help. So he hired what is called an au pair. And I had to look this up, you guys, what an au pair is versus like a nanny. An au pair is where you hire somebody, basically like a nanny, that comes into the home and they basically work for room and board. And from what I could find online, I'm sure it's different in every country, but this typically is like a person that will nanny for 20 to 30 hours a week. They live in the home, so they get free
Wait a sec. This kind of sounds familiar.
room and board and I guess food.
We might have listened to this story on it like before. Not Christina Randall, but we might have listened to somebody.
And they help out with the little ones. He ended up finding and hiring 31-year-old Molly Martens. Now, Molly had just got...
And then she comes over and then they fall in love. And then he like moves to Pennsylvania or something like that.
gotten out of a relationship.
Is that what it is?
And had dropped out of college, and so she was looking for a fresh start. She lived in Knoxville, Tennessee, and she claimed to be passionate about children and was up for traveling, so she took the job in Ireland to work with Jason, Jack, and Sarah. Things allegedly went really, really well. I mean, Molly really enjoyed taking care of Jack and Sarah, and they loved having Molly around. I mean, they were so young when their mother passed away, they started to actually see Molly as their mother figure. And Jason really enjoyed having Molly around as well. So much so that the two of them became romantically involved. Now, I need to throw this out here real quick. This is probably a good spot to let y'all know everything in this video is alleged. I don't know any of these people. I'm not a professional. I'm pulling all of my information from very public news sources that's already out there, from documents online, from interviews that have been done by these people that we're talking about, filtering it through my own words and opinions. So go do your own research and form your own opinions. But the word out there is that Jason wanted to take it slow, but Molly didn't. However, I do think something that tinged in my mind when researching this is the fact that Jason hired an au pair from the United States versus just hiring a nanny or a babysitter in his own country. And he obviously seen what she looked like and her age. And so he flew her all the way from the United States to move in with him and his children to be an au pair. And then allegedly they slept together the first night. Now, I don't know who was moving fast, but I do believe that Jason...
They what together the first night? Oh, no.
Being young and probably sad and lonely, saw this beautiful, what he was attracted to, young blonde girl from America, and said, I don't need a babysitter here in Ireland. I'm going to fly her over. So I do want to say that, because I heard that and I went, they slept together the first night. That's interesting. Moving on. So by 2011,
she said, that's interesting.
It is said that Molly convinced Jason to move back to the United States, to pack him, his children up, and they all moved back here to America. She had wanted to go back, and she told Jason that it would be better for Jack and Sarah not to lose another mother, so he decided that he would go with her. Now, Jason and Molly got married, and they moved into a home in Walburg, North Carolina. Jason paid just under $400,000 for the home, and allegedly he gave Molly $80,000 to furnish it. Can y'all imagine? Can y'all imagine somebody giving you $80,000 to furnish a home? I mean, I feel like I would be running through IKEA like crazy, like,
IKEA?
How dare you?
You could furnish an entire house with like $800 at IKEA.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's a lot of money. Anyways, it was a 5,500 square foot home. He also bought Molly a brand new BMW SUV. Now, by this point, Molly said that she was ready to formally adopt Jack and Sarah. However, Jason wasn't ready though. Instead, Jason applied for green cards so he could keep him and his children's Irish passports. It is said that this really upset Molly. She really wanted to formally adopt Jack and Sarah. She says that she was their mother for all intents and purposes, and by this time, she wanted to make it official. But because Jason didn't, this caused a lot of tension in their relationship. And according to Jason's brother-in-law, David, Jason specifically wanted his children to be able to go back to Ireland in the event of like a tragic accident or that he was to pass away. Now, I want to say that I can see both sides of this argument if both parties, meaning Molly and Jason, had good intentions. I don't know their intentions. We're going to get more into that in this video, but if they both...
If the dad, if the like actual biological father of the children doesn't feel comfortable, even if they're married, that's end of story. Like if she's like, I feel like I should, awesome. It's so great that you feel that way. They're not your kids. That would be crazy. So she's just like, you better let me adopt them or else. What's or else?
Both had good intentions. I can see both sides. I can see Molly being like, I'm doing all the motherly things. I love these kids. They're calling me mom. Their mother has passed away. I'm playing the mother role. I would like to legally have responsibility, But I could also see his side in him being like, I hired you to come across the country as basically a live-in nanny. You came with nothing but the dust and the mold in your pockets. And
the mold in your pockets, Christina
How
Randall?
dare you?
Who has mold in their pockets? By the way, TikTok, hit the follow button if you're new here. My name's Patrick. If you like true crime, we're live every single night. YouTube, do the same thing. Hit the subscribe, hit the thumbs up for me. And TikTok, if you want to watch the video, that's the YouTube channel right there, The Mystery Project. Search that on YouTube and come over and see the video. You can actually watch it over there.
I have done all of this. I've married you. I've brought you over here. If I let you adopt the kids and this is a plot and you decide to divorce me, you're going to get alimony and child support and be set and take my kids. So I could see him being like, yeah, that's the thing I'm not going to compromise on.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, no.
So like I said, I can see both sides. But because Jason would not agree to allow Molly to sign adoption papers, Molly reportedly began to seek legal advice on how to adopt Jack and Sarah on her own. This is when things started taking a turn for the worse. Jason's family...
That's divorce and going back to Ireland. See ya.
Has said that they initially really liked Molly. They were grateful that Jason was able to find someone that he loved after Mag's sudden passing. But as time went on, Jason's family became very suspicious of Molly. I mean, Jason's sister Tracy said that Molly had a history of lying. She claimed to have been an Olympic swimmer. Allegedly, according to Jason's sister, she claimed to be a qualified Montessori teacher and to have actually fostered a little boy in the past. However, none of this was true. Tracy also said that Molly told...
Good golly, Miss Molly. Uh-oh.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Told her that she was bipolar and had allegedly experienced several losses of her own pregnancies before she met Jason. Tracy also said that she heard that right before Jason and Molly's wedding, that Molly had been lying to her friends about how she met Jason. Allegedly, Molly told them that she had been pen pals and she was even friends with Mags, his wife that passed away before she passed. She even said,
why would you make that kind of stuff up? Like, oh, I knew this guy, but I knew his wife too. That makes you look crazy as hell.
That Molly told her friends that Mags had passed from cancer, which was not true.
Oh, yeah, no.
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
Stop lying, Molly.
And neither is a lie about knowing or meeting Mags before her passing. The two had never met, didn't know each other, never spoke or anything like that, which
Of course not.
if I had, those are some really tall tales. That would have made me super uncomfortable. But then Tracy said that she learned that Molly had allegedly lied about Jack and Sarah to her friends. Tracy said that Molly told her friends that she had actually given birth to Sarah and went as far as to tell the story about how difficult her labor and delivery was. The final straw...
What?
You what?
This lady is nuts.
For Tracy, though, was when she found out that Molly had supposedly been released from a psychiatric facility in Georgia just before she traveled to Ireland to work for Jason in 2008. Tracy alleges that Molly never disclosed this until just before her and Jason got married. And if all of this is true, you can imagine things must not have been going very well between Molly and Jason behind closed doors.
Right? He's like, wait, you did what?
Friends and family say that they argued, and they argued a lot. One friend says that Jason ended up leaving a party one night because Molly started making all these comments about his weight in front of several of their friends. And Jason was pretty self-conscious about his weight, and so that was a sore subject for him. And Molly knew that. Jason's sister Tracy said that this incident was the last straw for Jason. He had decided that it was finally time to move back to Ireland. Sadly, Jason never got the opportunity. On August 2nd of 2015, Thomas Martens, Molly's father, called 911 at around 3 a.m. to report that Jason was badly injured.
My name is Tom Martens. My son-in-law got in a fight with my daughter. I intervened, and he's just in bad shape. We need help. What do you mean he's in bad shape? He's hurt? He's all over, and I'm in. He's covered in. All right, listen carefully. I'll tell you how to do chest compressions. I'll set a pace for you. 1, 2, 3, 4.
I'm certified. I just can't think.
Okay, you have to stay calm.
I'm certified, I just can't think.
Why the fuck you lying?
I bet she wasn't even certified, y'all. Well, she's certified, all right. Certified. Cray.
Let your training take over. We need to try to do this to help him, okay?
Oh, okay.
All right.
1,
When officers arrived at Jason and Molly's home, they found Jason lying on the floor unresponsive with a serious head injuries. Soon after, he was pronounced deceased. Some officers say that it was one of the worst scenes that they had ever seen.
Oh my
Molly
God.
and her father, Tom, were brought in for questioning. Now, they claimed that the incident was a case of DV and self-defense.
He sees me coming, and he goes around her throat like this. And I said, let her go. Turned like it. Let her go. And I said, let her go.
I don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Let her go. Let her go. Pushes me down. And I'm scrambling on the floor, glasses falling off. Now I'm thinking, who's going to kill me? I get the backpack. Can't tell you how many times I hit him. I can't tell you. It was bad. I'm telling you, that guy was crazy.
Can you try to?
I don't know about this dude.
Dad, I think what you might have missed.
And sorry, the audio is kind of terrible. On YouTube, there's the subtitles though.
I hit him on the head. Paint these bricks and
The kids and I were gonna paint these bricks.
Why the fuck you lying?
What the fuck? Oh my God, this lady is nuts. I happen to have these crowbars. Me and the kids were gonna, we were gonna paint these crowbars. Because it's, a crowbar. It's just what you paint nowadays, right?
I was around the mailbox.
So there's a history of domestic violence at the house. How long has that been going on? Did you get that rose?
Yeah, that was from another man.
Another night when
Just when he called me. I was scared of trying to take the kids.
did you adopt the children?
No.
And that's a real possibility.
A few hours after being released from custody, Molly allegedly spent $5,500 on having the house industrially cleaned. As soon as Tracy and David, Jason's sister and brother-in-law, heard the news, they
Industrially cleaned.
booked a flight to the U.S. right away. They knew that they were named as guardians in Jason's will if anything were to ever happen to him. But strangely, when they got to the U.S., they went to the funeral home hoping to view Jason's body, but were turned away. The funeral director allegedly told them that Molly would only allow them to see Jason after they signed a legal agreement agreeing to pay the full costs of his funeral. Authorities were very frustrated as well because they say that Molly was...
She wouldn't let his family see him until they signed a paper saying that they would pay for his funeral. You are a sicko. You're going to burn in hell.
Trying to have Jason's body cremated before the family even arrived. Now, like I said before, in 2007, Jason had created a will that named Tracy and David as legal guardians of Jack and Sarah if something were to ever happen to him. But Molly believed that she deserved to have custody because she was the one who had been raising the two of them for the past 8 years. So just days after Jason's passing, Molly immediately filed for custody of 10-year-old Jack and 8-year-old Sarah. But as soon as Tracy and David got into town, they filed a legal challenge claiming that they should be given custody. Now, after a judge heard both of their cases, the judge agreed with Tracy and David, which I was very surprised with. I thought the judge was going to allow Molly to keep the two because she had been raising them for the previous 8 years. However, the judge awarded full custody to Tracy and David and basically said...
Yeah, the judge probably saw through her crap. You know what I mean? The judge was probably like...
That's suspicious. That's weird.
I said, hell no.
That Jack and Sarah were Irish. That's where their culture was. That's where their family was. And they deserve to be back there in their culture with their family and living with them. So after Tracy and David were awarded full custody, Tracy, David, Jack, and Sarah, they all flew back to Ireland together. They brought Jason's body with them as well for a proper funeral where he was laid to rest with Mags, his first wife. Now, for several months after, Molly continuously posted pictures of Jack and Sarah on Facebook. Sometimes she'd include her phone number or an email address, hoping that the kids would somehow see it or get a hold of it and get in touch with her. Now, Jack says at one point he did reach out to Molly, but she immediately turned around and outed him to the media, almost like she wanted the world to know that Jack had reached out to her, which felt very strange to Jack and almost like she had, betrayed him. So he snuck to call her, left her this message saying that he loved her, and she turned around and put it out to the media. Which, again, maybe if I could...
That is nuts.
I could kind of see both sides to that. I could kind of see her being like, she's fighting for these kids that she loves. Just hear me out.
No.
Out here. But at the same time, like, you're not going to go to another country and get them back. So why are you doing that? You're making it harder on Jack. Whatever. In the meanwhile, a police investigation ensued. Now, let's talk about the investigation because investigators were not convinced that this was just a case of self-defense for Molly and her father, especially after hearing what they had to say at their interrogation. Molly's father was a former FBI agent who had training in the use of interrogation. I mean, he's retired FBI agent. He knows what he's doing. And during his interrogation, Tom claimed that he and his wife were staying the night at Molly and Jason's house when they were awoken around 3 a.m. to the sounds of a disturbance happening in the master bedroom. Tom said that he grabbed a baseball bat and he rushed to the bedroom where he said that he saw Jason with his arms around the throat of Molly saying, "I'm going to end her." Tom said that he started swinging the bat at Jason, hitting him multiple times with it. But what he didn't say was that Molly began to hit Jason as well in the head with a paving stone after he had fallen to the ground. Molly was being interviewed at the same time, but in a different room. And during her interrogation, she said that there had been a history of DV between her and Jason, and that her dad was just defending her. She did admit to using the paver on Jason as well, but the investigators noticed that there were minimal injuries to both Molly and Tom. She also accused Jason of being a heavy drinker and said that he was very drunk during this incident. However, when the autopsy report came back, it showed that Jason's blood alcohol level was only 0.02. Y'all know that the legal driving alcohol limit here in the United States is 0.08, and his was only a 0.02. It also showed that there were trace amounts of a medication called trazodone in his system. Now, Jason was not prescribed this medication, but Molly had been prescribed this medication just 3 days before this incident. Almost like...
so she put it in his drink, and he probably took a drink and was like, "What the hell is this? This tastes terrible." And she was like, "Drink it!" Came at him with a stone. Oh my God.
She got prescribed it immediately, and then he started taking it immediately, or she started giving it to him immediately. Nevertheless, she had it for 3 days and it was in his system. The autopsy also showed that he had been hit in the head so many times that the medical examiner literally could not even tell exactly how many times. It was just layers on top of layers on top of layers.
Yeah, that's not self-defense.
Of injuries. But Molly insisted the physical stuff had been going on for a while. She even said that she had recordings of it. She said that she used her phone to record him and had recording devices planted all around the house.
Are you finishing your dinner, hon? I'm talking to you. Is this how you treat this? You just ignore me? I said I'd like to have dinner with my son. I'm talking to you. I shouldn't have to say over and over. I shouldn't have to say Molly.
Can you guys get out the stuff for pancakes?
No, see you. Here you go again. I'm talking to you and you're still going on talking about something else.
Now, right after their father's passing, Jack and Sarah were interviewed by social...
That didn't even sound that bad, really. It sounded like she was crazy as hell. And he was like, "I'm just trying to talk to you."
Services. Sarah said that her dad had anger management issues and that he got very angry on a regular basis.
Best bet, it was, she claimed that her and the kids were going to paint the paving stones.
She even described a time when Jason pulled Molly's hair and smacked her in the face. Jack said similar things during his interview, and he said that he witnessed physical and emotional stuff go on several occasions.
No hell.
He said Dad gets mad at Mom for no good reason. Jack even explained why the paver was in Molly and Jason's bedroom.
My dad died, and people are, my aunt and uncle from my dad's side are trying to take it away from my mom. Not what my dad was got.
Man, it sounds like she got in those kids' head.
Tell me what about it. He doesn't think it's really anything. I was like, why'd you pick me up? I was in my mom's room because it was raining earlier, and we were going to clean it. We didn't want it getting it all wet. Basically, her cousin would punch. What did you punching, hitting, pushing. Has anyone told you what to say when other people talk to you? I'm just saying, say the truth now. That's all she said.
Investigators were still not convinced, though. They felt that Jack and Sarah's interviews seemed a bit rehearsed. So, in January of 2016,
they totally did.
Molly and her father, Tom, were charged with second-degree involuntary. They both pled not guilty, and they were both released on a $200,000 bail. In the meanwhile, Jack and Sarah started realizing that their lives with Molly was not exactly what they thought it was. When they went back home to Ireland,
shocking,
they both missed Molly.
Jack and Sarah's the other one. I thought they meant the mom.
Very bad. I mean, that again was the mother that they remembered in their life. But as time went by, they realized that their dad was not the man that Molly was making him out to be. They say that they didn't really have these memories of him being physical towards Molly, but they did have memories of her telling them that he was, especially after he passed away. Jack decided that he wanted to come clean and renounce his previous statements. And so he got on a video call with the prosecutor and told them that Molly had coached him on what to say prior to his interview with social services. He said that he believed that Molly was making up false stories and that he had never witnessed his father get physical with Molly.
Is it true that your father was abusive or false?
See, the truth will set you free.
False. What did Molly say?
We were going into an interview. She was saying a lot of making up stories about my dad, saying that he was abusive. And she started saying, if you don't lie, I'll never ever see you again. And I don't know what happened.
Yeah, she said, if you don't lie, you'll never ever see her again. Man, you gonna burn in hell for that one.
How dare you! My dad, and I want justice to be served.
But then Molly and her father's defense team filed a motion to exclude Jack's renouncement interview. They believe that Jack and Sarah were being brainwashed by Tracy and David. And eventually, the court ruled that neither the first interviews or Jack's renouncement interview could be allowed during Molly and Tom's trial. All the while, Molly and Tom were doing interviews to tell their side of the story ahead of the trial.
He was very controlling and he was very possessive. The first few months, you just kind of brush that off. You think, oh, well, he just loves me so much.
You were the one that wanted him to, like, give you legal control of his kids. You were the one that wanted to move all the way from the States to Ireland to be with him. And then got a little, you know what, on the first night. It's crazy.
But those kind of things got worse. He was paranoid that I would develop some feelings for someone else, or that somebody would look at me.
Or that you would move to pick another one. If it wasn't Ireland, where are you going to go? The UK? You're going to go to Dubai? You're going to go, I mean, where are you going to go next?
The wrong way.
He would dictate what she should wear or what she should shop for or when she should be home or when she should or shouldn't leave or text her repeatedly or engage in just various forms of, controlling behavior. Demand to see her phone, look at her computer history.
I'm sure she never demanded to see his phone or check his computer history.
That sort of thing.
Now, Molly and Tom's trial began in July of 2017, and the defense argued that Molly and Tom...
And if you don't want to be with a guy that says, hey, I'd like for you to wear this, don't be with a guy that says, hey, I'd like for you to wear this.
Both were only acting in self-defense, but the prosecution told the jury that they believed that this was a case of cold-blooded. The prosecution brought a neighbor named David on the stand who claimed that he and Jason had actually mowed their lawns together the day before the incident. He said that after they got done mowing, they sat down together to have a beer, and he said that their wives joined them an hour later, and then at around 8 p.m., Molly's parents arrived for this surprise visit, and he said that Jason appeared to be in really good spirits. He did not appear to be drunk, he didn't appear to be mad, he didn't appear to be aggressive, everything seemed great. The 911 phone call operator also testified. After the 911 call was played in open court, the dispatcher said that she believed that Tom seemed surprisingly calm. She also said that while they were on the phone, before first responders actually arrived, that she had instructed Tom and Molly to perform CPR on Jason. She said that Tom had supposedly performed over 400 exhausting CPR chest compressions while...
And let me guess, his chest was totally fine. Because y'all know if they do chest compressions, you're going to know.
While Molly kept count out loud.
I'm certified. I just can't think.
Okay, you have to stay calm. Let your training take over. We're trying to do this to help him, okay?
Okay.
All right.
One.
But Tom didn't sound like he was out of breath at all, like she would have definitely expected him to be when he got back on the phone. The medical examiner even testified, and the medical examiner said that although she could not get an accurate count, she believed that Jason had been hit at least 12 times. She said he also had blunt force injuries to his arms and his torso. And when photos of Jason's injuries were showed in court, proceedings had to be paused when a juror became physically ill. A nurse and a pharmacist testified that Molly had reported having trouble sleeping, and that's why she was prescribed the trazodone just 3 days before this incident. The pharmacist confirmed that it was indeed Molly who had picked up the medication. And the paramedics that arrived to the scene less than 10 minutes after Tom made that 911 phone call testified that when they were attaching the ECG leads to Jason's body, they remembered noticing that Jason's skin felt remarkably cold to the touch and that his body temperature was much lower than they would have expected. So
he'd already been with Jesus for a minute.
Kind of makes you think that he had been gone for a while, because if they arrived 10 minutes after the 911 phone call,
that's weird,
giving them the benefit of the doubt, then he would have been only passed away, 15, 20 minutes? He would have still had some warmth to him. But they testified that he was cold. A crime scene technician came and testified that when he arrived at the house that night to take photos of the scene, he remembers not seeing any injuries on Molly's neck when he photographed it. He also said that he had to tell Molly to stop rubbing and tugging at her neck while he took the photos. A police officer also testified, saying that he noticed that Molly was rubbing her neck in a scrubbing motion while she was sitting in his patrol car. He also said that she was making crying noises, but he never saw any actual tears coming from her eyes. And I'm going to insert a clip here to an interview that she did that I saw her do the same exact thing. Check this out.
Allowing myself to be treated like that? Did you know that your dad had a bat with him? I don't know if that registered right away, but it did register.
As y'all can see,
what the hell was she wiping away? Air?
She even wiped nothing away. A forensic scientist testified that he believed the first blows could have actually happened while Jason was in bed, because there were red splatters found inside the quilt and inside the mattress. And he also said that there were splatters all over the walls that led him to believe that the blows were...
Dude was sleeping.
made as Jason was falling to the floor. There were these little red dots that were also found inside the hem of Tom's boxers, which made the forensic scientists believe that the blows were made while Jason was on the floor as well. But that doesn't cover all the testimony, because a friend of Molly's family testified that before Jason and Molly's wedding in 2011, Molly's family said that they did not like Jason and that the friends that he had invited to the wedding, they didn't like any of them. Now, this person also testified that 2 months before Jason's passing, Molly's family said, "That son-in-law, I hate him."
Dear Lord.
Guy was crazy.
Tracy, Jason's sister, testified that Jason was feeling very homesick around the time of his passing, and he had planned to move back to Ireland so that Jack could start high school there. Now let's talk a little bit about Tom, because in his own defense, he actually got on the stand and testified. Now I want y'all to remember that he's got FBI training. I mean, he was retired FBI agent. He knows all about this. Doesn't mean he was lying, but it's interesting to note, right? We talk about all this with the BK situation, and I'm going to talk about it with Tom too. Now, he got up there and told the same story, that he was awoken in the middle of the night to sounds of a disturbance coming from the master bedroom. He said that he got up, he ran in there with a baseball bat, he saw Jason with his hands around Molly's neck, and he started just swinging the bat. He did admit on the stand,
oh my God, that would escalate pretty damn quickly,
that he did not like Jason because one of Jason's friends had been drinking, smoking, and using bad language in his house just before Jason and Molly's wedding. And on cross-examination, Tom admitted that he had told
they're Irish.
Molly to divorce Jason because he believed that Jason did not measure up to what his daughter deserved. He also admitted that he had never witnessed or been told of any of the incidents of DV before the night of the incident.
Felt he would kill me. I felt both of our lives were in danger. I did the best I could.
Now, Molly, on the other hand, did not get up there on the stand and testify in her own defense. And during closing arguments, the prosecution highlighted the fact that Molly had plenty of motive to end her husband's life. And I do agree. Whether whose story is true or not, y'all are going to decide. But I do believe she had motive, okay? She would have inherited their home, all of the contents in it, a $600,000 life insurance policy, and most importantly, Jack and Sarah. Or at least she thought she would. The DA reminded the jury that Jason had adamantly refused to sign adoption papers over to give Molly equal rights to Jack and Sarah, and that he had in fact planned to move back to Ireland before his passing. The prosecution also used the bat and the paver for demonstration in their closing arguments. Now, there's no footage of this, but there is some audio.
Oh, hell. TikTok, y'all better come over to YouTube before they get mad at me for this one. You guys know how TikTok is. They get mad as hell. Y'all, The Mystery Project on YouTube. We're live there right now. Y'all come check it out. The Mystery Project. Come on. Bye-bye, TikTok. All right, let's go.
Does it take to split the flesh all the way to the skull? You know what malice feels like from the grip that Molly had? It feels like I hate it and I want those kids. That's what malice feels like.
But
dear Lord,
the defense argued in their closing argument that Molly had nothing to gain from Jason's passing. They said that she knew that she was not mentioned in his will and that she wouldn't benefit from his life insurance policy and she would not get custody of the children. So why in the world would she do this? And what I do want to say to this is I don't know if she knew, maybe she did, maybe she didn't, that that Jason's family would fly over to the U.S. and fight for him. Because if you think about this, if you take it all the way back, if his family, Tracy and David, if they didn't have just the finances to fly to the U.S. and take time off of work and fight in the court systems, she would have got custody, because what else would they have done with the children? They're not going to just fly the children over across the country, but they did have the resources to come over here to the U.S. and fight for them. So I don't know what all she knew. Now, on August 9th of 2017, after less than 4 hours of deliberating, 67-year-old ex-FBI agent Thomas and 33-year-old Molly were found guilty of second-degree. They were
because they were
both sentenced to 20 to 25 years in prison. Yes. But that's not where this story ends, okay? In March of 2021, the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled that Molly and Tom must be granted a new trial because Jack and Sarah's interviews with social services were wrongly excluded from the trial as evidence. After spending over 3 years in prison, Tom and Molly's convictions were overturned and they were released from prison. Now, as you can imagine, Jack and Sarah were devastated at this point. These two little ones, you guys, when I watched the documentary, they have been through so much.
If the interviews of the boy saying that, you know, oh yeah, I saw this, if that was let in, does that mean that the other ones where the kid was like, actually none of that really happened, she just told me to say it, did those ones get let in also?
They have take everybody else out of it. Take the sister, the brother-in-law, everybody else. These two little ones have been through so much in their short lives at this point. And they thought that this whole ordeal was finally over when Tom and Molly were convicted. And now they had to go through a whole new trial. In October of 2023, Tom and Molly accepted plea deals. The DA ended up dropping the big charges in exchange for Tom pleading guilty and Molly pleading no contest to voluntary. Then there was sentencing, and the judge heard arguments from both sides. It was mostly the same information from the first trial, except the defense had some new arguments. They claimed that Jason had actually shot his first wife, Mags, and that's what led to her death. Mags' family released a statement denying these accusations and insisted that Jason had done everything that he could to save their daughter, Mags, during her asthma attack. A woman who was there at their house that night also said so as well. Now, by this time, 19-year-old Jack and 17-year-old Sarah both delivered victim impact statements in person to the court. So again, they all flew back to the United States to give these victim impact statements. Sarah described how she had just gone through so much through the years, and she had been through so much therapy due to the fact that her statements as a young child had been twisted and then used to help Molly and Tom escape punishment, adding that Molly had devastated their entire family. Sarah also said that Molly and Tom had shown no remorse for ending her father's life. And she said that Molly removed her wedding ring almost immediately and told her to stop crying and to get over it in the days after his passing.
That is sick. You're going to burn in hell for that one, lady. By the way, YouTube, you guys, make sure you subscribe, and everybody watching, hit that thumbs up for me. Let's get, we're almost at 50 likes, y'all. 13 people. Hit the little thumbs up for me.
Jack urged the judge not to be fooled by Tom and Molly. He said that Molly was a monster who had hurt him and weaponized his earlier statements in an effort to get away with ending his father's life. And as Jack and Sarah read their statements, Molly sobbed loudly and eventually laid her face down on the table in front of her. Molly and Tom ended up being sentenced
with no tears
to 51 to 74 months in prison. And with the time that they had already served, they were both released in June of last year, 2024. And then they were subject to 1 year supervised release. Now, when asked about Tom and Molly's release from prison, the DA said that they got off with a slap on the wrist and that he believed that they simply spent enough money on appeals until the courts got worn down and accepted their last appeal. Jack and Sarah say that they've spent the last year healing from all this trauma and trying to honor their father's legacy. Sarah frequently posts on Instagram about both of her parents, especially on their birthdays, Mother's Day, and Father's Day. She's an avid diver, and she has written 2 books about her experience. Noodle Loses Dad, a children's book about loss and grief, and her memoir, A Time for Truth, My Father Jason, and My Search for Justice and Healing.
I found it really hard in the courtrooms to listen to lies being spread about my dad. And in the moment when I decided, it was sheer frustration. And, you know, I never had a voice. My dad was silenced by the Martens, and we were silenced by a gag order for so long, and I never got the chance to actually say what happened. And I just think it was really important for me, and I found it very therapeutic as well to write it all out. But I wanted people to know the truth about what happened inside of our home.
Jack is a bit more private. Sarah says that he enjoys singing and songwriting and is currently studying music in college. Jack and Sarah felt that their participation in the new Netflix documentary was very important because they say that it highlights the profound impact of the absence of justice that they faced within the judicial system. They wanted to be a voice for their father, and they said that they thought that he may have been silenced, but it is their responsibility to continue speaking on his behalf. So what do I think?
Wow.
I do not believe that justice was served. I do believe that the courts did what they could. I mean, those interviews from the 2 little ones after the incident were pretty, you know, damning to the case, I guess, even if they were manipulated. And I just think that it was hard. They ended up wearing the court systems down with this. I definitely think that people are scary. There are conniving people in the world that can present a smiling face and be very sneaky behind the scenes and completely try to destroy your life. We have seen this happen a million times, and I've talked about this in so many of the videos that I have done with you guys. For me personally, if I'm out and somebody comes running to me, you know that they're coming, right? You can jump in a car, you can grab something to protect yourself, you can run away. That is less scary as that sounds, as the person that smiles, the person that pretends, oh, I care about you, I'm your friend, or I'm your loved one, or I'm your partner, and they're secretly plotting against you the whole time. That is really scary. In my unprofessional opinion, I think that if Jason would have signed over some sort of custody rights of his kids to her, that eventually she would have divorced him, took him for everything that she could, and took his kids from him. I do believe that. And that would have been crazy. It ended up crazy either way. I do hope that Jack and Sarah,
either way, his life would have been taken,
can heal as much as possible and live very fulfilled, happy, loving lives. Because, man, talk about a rough start.
That is crazy. Yo, make sure you like the video. Everybody watching, hit the thumbs up for me. Subscribe to the channel if you like this kind of stuff. We're live every single night. And I'll see y'all tomorrow.